are just joining us, you can push replay or type replay and put it in the chat. We'd love to see who's here and where you are coming from and where you are. So you push replay or type the replay in there. If you have any questions about last week's lesson, feel free to reach out about that as well, as we talked about different ways to give students choices in regards to our writing. And really, our end goal is to get students putting pencil to paper. So that is what we chatted about last week. And so, again, this week we're going to be talking about implementing that specific idea, the ideas for writing prompts, bookmarks, into your classroom. So before we get started, I want to let you know that this is a free download. So you can go ahead and grab that so you can get your students motivated today. It's a free download. You can go to the link here that's going across the bottom of your screen, but I will also put it in the chat again. So it's an easy click of a button. So those are the two things you can do to grab those bookmarks. All right. So last week we talked about a little bit of research that came about in regards to after the COVID whole experience and the lack of education that was going on and all these things. And so there was a college study that went into elementary classrooms and did some observations. And the overall idea was that they were going to be testing choice. And when we give students choice, how they perform when that happens. And a quote that came from that study said here, it said, let me go ahead and just do one screen so you can see it. Emphasizes that student choice emphasizes students learning at their own pace, being intrinsically motivated versus extrinsically motivated, and focusing on the learning process itself. So nothing, no gifts, no prizes, things like that. They are intrinsically self-motivated. Students are taking charge of their own learning and motivating themselves through choice, interest, and engagement. So my question would be, how nice would it be to have students who are interested in what you are teaching and interested in what you are expecting from them? And also, how nice would it be to have them engaged, right? Without you having to do the dog and pony show. So in the chat, I'd love for you to drop an emoji in there to share how would you feel. Show me an emotional type emoji that shows how you would feel if your students were interested in what you were teaching, specifically to writing. We know that that is a feat a lot of times. So if you had students that were motivated and engaged and ready to write and, were no longer tearing up and throwing their head down and walking out of the classroom, how would that make you feel? I know for me personally, when you see those kids and you watch their body language and you realize, if they're not engaged, then you're having a hard time. You're feeling that. That's bringing you down. It's like, that quick, like, switch gears that teachers can do, that, we've got to do something to, make change in their overall attitude. So, so that study really talked about the choice. So we talked a little bit more about that last week. And so with that, I want to talk about the bookmarks from last week that I shared and how I introduce them into the classroom or online if you are doing virtual. So again, it depends on what writing genre you're working on, and it doesn't matter which genre you're working on because these bookmarks are applicable to all of those. So this is how I would do it. If I was starting off my week on Monday and I was going to be introducing the writing genre, specifically the expository writing genre. Now, for me personally, I love PowerPoint presentations. They're visual. They prompt kids to get up and move and do actions and just really engage. But maybe there's a different way that you introduce topics. So you can do it however you'd like, but whatever you do that's typical to your classroom, because all of our classrooms are different, whatever works for your students, that's what you would do on day one. You would introduce. So for me, if I was introducing the writing genre expository, I would start off with a PowerPoint presentation. And of course, you go through the whole spiel of your objective and all these things, however you do that, as I mentioned. But for me, would be a PowerPoint presentation. To this day, that's how I introduce my students online now, doing that. And so, as you can see, the objective is today we will learn about expository writing, the expository writing genre. Now, the expository writing genre in this example today is going to be an expository how-to, and some teachers call it a procedural writing. I've heard it called both ways. I think the more up-to-date word is the procedural writing. So what I would do is introduce the presentation, and I would talk about what an expository writing is and how an expository writing piece explains, and it can focus on facts, and it can give directions, and all the things. So you would introduce your writing genre. You want to hook your students and give them that background knowledge prior to getting into the activity that I'm going to share in a little bit. So that's what I would do first. You want to introduce the writing genre. Now, the next thing would be to kind of make connections with them. So again, we want them to be interested, and we're going to give them a choice. But throughout the way we present our lessons, we are giving students choice. For example, in this next part here, in this part of the presentation, would be we're making connections. Like, here, listen to their experiences. Everyone's experience is different. So there is a game called Just Like Me that I always loved playing when I was in the classroom. And up on the presentation, we would make connections, and we do it like this. Usually we would do this when you get back to school for a brand new year, like what did you do over the summer? What did you do over your break? Things like that. But it gets the kids up. So what would happen is I would put up a big picture of, maybe start off with the hamburger. And in this case, we are talking about giving directions on how to make something. So our expository is going to be specifically to a how-to or a procedural writing, giving directions on how to make something. And you want to hook them, and you want to make connections with them by not having the mundane text on every slide, but you want it visual. And I would always put like one example up. So maybe the first one would be the hamburger. I'd put a big hamburger up on the entire slide. And the idea of this game, it's just a little activity, is they're all in their seats. And the objective is if you see something up on the screen that you know how to do, and you know how to give directions to, the step-by-step, they would stand up and say, just like me. Okay. So I would say, I know how to make a hamburger. And then they would stand up just like me. And it's just a fun way. It gets them up. It gets them vocal. They can be a little silly with it, of course, around your parameters and your teacher expectations. But what it's doing is that it's giving those introvert kids some ideas to think about. So for example, when the hamburger goes up, maybe when the teacher was saying, we're going to be writing a procedural how-to today, or an expository how-to, what is something you know how to do? Be thinking about something you know how to do. It could be how to do something, how to make something. Now, one thing I do in the beginning of this, when this is fairly new, is I ask them to think about something that they know how to do or make that doesn't take that many steps. And I always give the example of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Simple, a few steps, okay, basically, that you could share. So what happens is say, for example, when this teacher introduces this and says, I want you to share something that you know how to do. And maybe a student was thinking of a hamburger, but they thought, no, nobody's going to like that. If someone's going to laugh at me, something like that. That then seeing that up on the screen is like, oh, they can justify that their idea was great and that it could be applicable to this activity. So it's great for your introverts. It gives people ideas that maybe don't have an idea and they have that writer's block or that thought block, that their ideas aren't great. It just gets it excited. Or, maybe it was like, I was thinking about a hamburger, but then all these people stood up and said, just like me. And they go, oh, okay, well, that's a good, that's a good example of what I could write about. So all of these pictures, and you could do a variety of things. You can even, what I would do in the classroom is if I knew about things in this case that students knew how to do, I could put pictures up there because I know it's going to make a connection. I know it's going to make a connection. So that is something that you could do. You can even take pictures of your students and put them up on the screen in relation to the same things that you see them doing. So I would put that up there and they would just continue through the slides. So you brainstorm ideas on things that kids may know how to do. How to make a hamburger or another snack or another meal, how to fold clothes, how to put clothes away, how to mop the floor, how to fold a paper airplane, how to play checkers, how to draw a smiley face. And what it does, like I say, is it really engages the kids. It makes connections. It makes them feel valuable about what they know and that they can be the teacher and provide somebody steps on how to do something that they normally wouldn't know how to do. So that is what I would do next. So again, you're introducing however you want to present this to them, what your objective is, which in this case was an expository how-to, okay, or procedural writing. And you go through all of the how-tos and the background knowledge of what that is. Then we're going to make connections and get them excited, okay, and whatever other activities you want to do. And then this is where we're going to implement those bookmarks. So here's where the bookmark activity comes in. When you download this free resource, there are a variety of genres. There's actually specifically 5. There's actually 6 that I didn't include in here. And it goes through the how-to expository prompt. And it's not a writing prompt. It's a sentence prompt. It's a sentence starter to get them thinking about what things how they can start thinking in that topic area, in that genre. So, and the expository how-to, the other one is for a personal narrative. So what are some experiences they have? Opinion, what do they have an opinion on? What do they want to persuade people about? And then the other one is more like factual, like what do you know about? Meaning, do you know a lot of facts about dogs, things like that. So that would be another expository example, but more research-based. Okay, so there's choices here. I've also created them to be applicable per your student. So they can choose the bookmarks that are comfortable. There's girls with various hair colors. There's boys with various hair colors. There's bookmarks that have no picture and they can create what they want in regards to the picture there. And then there's also a section that they can fill in their name. So it is their grouping of bookmarks. I would not introduce all of these at one time. I would introduce them as you do the writing genres. And the nice part is that this can become, maybe if you do a may do, must do in your classroom, may do's are activities that your students can do when they're finished with their must do's. Must do's are that these need to be done. May do's are these things you can choose from. So maybe this is, if you're working on this, maybe they start it, they can finish it. It's a must do. But maybe later on, after they have their ideas compiled, and I'm going to show you my example in a moment, then maybe may do, these are choices, they can use those prompts and just do a little journal write too. So again, it's that safe space where they can add their ideas and always go back to them. So when it is time to write, or you're doing a free write or a journal time or a specific writing genre, they don't have to go, I have no idea. They can go back to their writing prompt bookmark. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to share an example of one and kind of how I printed it out. So I'm going to flip my camera over here in a moment, but you can print them out. They could be smaller. I showed last week, but I will show again in case you missed it. I have them, once they be written down, let me go ahead and turn this off here. I would laminate them, and that way they, stay put. So, and then I just put them on a ring, and they can have that in their little pencil box or their folder or whatever you choose to, where you choose to place those. The other option is if you have students that need more of a writing space. Now, again, this is for jotting. These aren't complete sentences, which again is another like confidence booster in a way for kids that don't like to write, because they're not having to write complete sentences. They're just jots. They're just quick notes about topics that they may be interested in. So maybe they need a bigger space to write. So you might make this more of a full length piece. So I'm going to go ahead and flip on over so you can see my paper here. And of course I would cut it out, but I just kind of wanted to show how I would jot. Now in my classroom, we talk about jotting, and it's an acronym that reminds students that they are going to not write complete sentences, but just to do 1, 2, or 3 words. So I'm going to go ahead and flip on. I think my audio got cut off. So let me try this again here. There we go. All right. So since we were talking about the how-to, we are going to be using this bookmark that I can make. And again, we talk about, I include the I there, that personal pronoun, just so the kids are like, this is mine. It's, I want to know, like it tells the student, we want to know what you know how to do. We care. We want to know about you. We want to know what you, your strengths and what you feel good about knowing how to do, things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and flip on over here. And when I flip my camera, my audio turns off. So don't want that. Let me see if I can just do this. Hopefully you can hear me. I hope that's the case. So in this case, maybe after the activity, you leave the slides up, or maybe on a chart paper when everybody was brainstorming, you have those written down. The kids can refer to them if they want. So that way, if you have a student that is having total brain fog, okay, or writer's block, and they can't think of anything, even though there's a ton they know how to do, if they can't think of anything, there's always that chart paper with ideas from the activities I talked about last week, the carousel activity, as well as the torpedo activity that they can refer to. So nobody's going to leave with a blank bookmark. Okay. All right. So this one says I can make. Now they can adjust it to I can, whatever it is, but it could be more of it's not so much maybe making, but the idea is giving procedural steps. So, okay, I can make PB and J. Okay, again, no complete sentences. I can make my bed. I can make, let's say, I don't know, eggs, like scrambled eggs. And again, it doesn't have to be scrambled eggs. It's the overall topic so that they can at least go back to it later. I said bed. I can make, I don't know, a heart. Okay, maybe that's drawing. I can make, if they can do an airplane, maybe they can do an airplane. So they're jotting down their ideas. And so if they need more, you can give them more. They can go to the back, whatever it is, but they can get laminated. And so when it is time go back to this activity and they're writing, then they have something to look for. And then they're not feeling like I'm the only one that can't think of anything. I don't have anything on my bookmark. And so one thing we have to realize, and I know as teachers we experience this, but all of our students are having, especially with writing, they block out, they stress, and they shut down because they're not confident. But if we go back to giving them a choice, like I said, there was choice throughout that activity. There was choice of, hey, do you want to share that you know how to, not just like me activity? Did you share that you know how to do that too? You get to share, you have a choice of what you want to stand up about. You have a choice, right? And when it comes to the bookmarks, I am telling you, we are doing an expository how-to or a procedural writing, but you get to choose what you are going to give directions on, how you know how to make, what you know how to make. So, and we want to do that because if I say we are going to give directions on how to A, B, and C, whatever it is, we can't assume that everyone in that classroom has done that or knows how to deliver that the steps. And so we want to make sure that they are given a choice on what they're going to write about within the genre we're talking about. And with that, students will be so much more motivated, they'll be so much more engaged, and they in turn will be successful because they are confident. So that wraps up the implementing the ideas for writing prompts bookmark activity. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Again, if you are watching the replay, go ahead and type that down in there. And if you have not grabbed your free ideas for writing prompts bookmark, you can grab it in the link that I will put in right after our live. And you guys have a wonderful day. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.